Hello. Thank you for joining our webinar today here at HR for UK. I'm just going to take a few minutes to wait just to allow other people to join. For those of you that are here, I just want to share with you something that's hot off the press that we've just picked up here. But the proposed isolation period is going to go from 7 days to 5 days. So I don't think that has actually been passed yet, but that's the proposal. So that's great news for employers and employees. So we'll just wait to hear a bit more about that. Okay, well, just as I said, give a couple of minutes and wait for people to join. Okay, so as I've said, thank you for joining our webinar today here at HR for UK. I just want to start by introducing myself. My name is Heather Butler and I'm the Head of Advice here at HR for UK. I've been with the company since August last year and I can tell you that I'm enjoying it immensely. It's a great team to work with. Just a bit of background on me. Previous to that, I worked for Jaguar Land Rover as a project manager, where I dealt with some complex HR projects such as 2P, which is something we all fear, and settlement agreements. And I also worked as a senior employment advisor for a HR consultancy called Krona. But the bulk of my career was spent in retail. So out of 25 years, 20 of those were spent in HR and learning and development. I've gained a wealth of knowledge and practical experience, which has really stood me in good stead to be able to offer advice based on real life experience. Basically, believe me, I've literally heard it and seen it all. Okay, so to set the scene, I will be honest with you, I really didn't want this to be another webinar about COVID. I am sure there are a lot of you out there thinking the same as me, that you were tired of hearing the telephone messages. Please bear with us as we try to reinstate normal services due to COVID. Seriously, we are 2 years down the line. Well, news is this is the new normal. The fact is that absenteeism has always been an ongoing issue for businesses, which I believe has further been magnified due to COVID. Although we are governed by certain rules, it doesn't, however, prevent us from keeping a handle on it, so to speak. I'm going to share some best practice with you. I will then open up the floor to questions. That said, I do want it to be interactive. So if you do want to raise a question as we go through, you can add it to the chat or you can raise your hand and we will just pause to allow that question because it's important to capture. You get the answers that you're looking for and we capture it at that time. That said, I may not be able to answer all of them, but I have a great team here at HR for UK and I guarantee I will come back to you with the answer. Okay, so we know that the current rules relating to COVID updated on Tuesday the 11th and our website is regularly updated so you can find everything that you need to know on HR for UK website or by visiting gov.uk. Okay, so now I'm going to share some best practice with you and some of the things that we have adopted here at HR for UK to support us if we were faced with high absence. Firstly, it's prevention. So that's really about going back to basics. So many businesses at this time of year review their risk assessments. And the one relating to COVID, I anticipate will form part of this annual review for some time to come. I'm not going to tell you how to suck eggs. It's a check that the following are in place, but most importantly being adhered to. Remember, a lot of these risk assessments were created back in 2020. Ask yourself, have they been revisited? Are they still live? Because otherwise they're not worth doing if we're not adhering to them. Okay, so it's basic things like the bacterial wipes are in place, that there's regular cleaning going on with disinfectant, raising awareness through COVID signage. I do have a big thing about signage. It's only impactful if it's read. If you ask somebody what's on a sign and they're not able to tell you, then unfortunately it's just become wallpaper. So you need to think about refreshing it. To capture it, it has to be captive to that audience. Other things are good ventilation. We're told that if you open a window for 10 minutes a day, that gives you some great benefits in terms of preventing COVID. Having the screens between the desks, the one-way traffic, the flexible start times, limiting the use of kitchen areas and toilets to 1 or 2 at a time, depending on size. As I said, I'm not going to go through the whole list. You know what you're doing, but it's just a prompt to say, go back. You may have it in place, but are you adhering to it? And then there's maintaining awareness. Continue to encourage vaccinations. There are still a large percentage of people that are not vaccinated. I read on a headline in the paper in the supermarket the other day that 75% of people in hospital have not been vaccinated. So I think that says it all really, doesn't it? So the scenario that you could be faced with is that a customer to your business is totally reliant on you getting something completed for them today, but the person or persons that was going to do it has COVID. They can't work from home. There is a potential you could lose this customer if you don't meet the deadline. How can you avoid that in the future? One answer is multi-skilling your workforce. Train your way out of potential pitfalls and trouble. Look at what skills and talents you already have in the workplace but has never utilised before. Believe me, it will surprise you what some people can do that you did not know about. Really get to know your people. I've always been of the assumption that when you meet new people, your employees, you should always know 2 things about them that they do personally as well, because that gives you an insight of what they're capable of doing. Ask yourself what skills are transferable. Doing this now in a roundabout way is actually developing your succession plan for the future, because you're giving them the added skills as you go, which will pay dividends in the long run. Even given the most basic overview of a business critical task can pay off. And then if you follow it up with some clear guidance, notes and instructions, you will never have to worry about not being able to complete a task on time again, as someone can pick it up and run with it. It's not to say they're going to be as experienced as the person that generally does that job, but they'll have an idea and they'll be able to commit that customer to deliver that task. Other options that we've talked about are, do you have seasonal or casual workers that you could call upon? If so, is their training fully up to date? Because that is an important thing. They need to be kept up to date with what's going on at your business. An obvious solution is, can employers work from home? But always ask yourself the question, will they be as effective at home as they would be in the workplace? Yeah, and it's also easy to forget people that are at home. They have to be part of your day-to-day workplace. So that's picking up the phone to them, asking them how they are, what have they got on today, touching base with them at certain points of the day just to make sure they're okay, as you would in the workplace, because it's proven that people at home can feel isolated. They can feel that they're not part of the office banter. They're not having that quick cup of tea with you and that quick chat. So that's why it's important that they don't feel isolated. It's safe to say that over the last 2 years, we have completely been taken over by COVID. And naturally, I've relied on everything that our employers are telling us as being gospel. Like everything, it can be open to abuse, and I can guarantee there will not be one of you that hasn't thought at some point, is that employee being entirely truthful with me? So, how do you manage this, you ask? Okay, well, you challenge them. COVID doesn't give anyone the license to do as they choose. You have the right as an employer to see that lateral flow test or those PCR results. Question if they have submitted their results. What have they been advised by track and trace? And are they adhering to it? Have they submitted their isolation note as proof of COVID to you? Chase them on day 6. See if they have done a lateral flow test so you know when they are expected back. Ask them to contact you on day 7 to determine if they are returning. And I'm guessing that's going to go to day 3 and 4 in the not too distant future. Although COVID-related illnesses should not be included in an overall absence percentage, because that would be discriminatory, a return to work interview should be completed for every absence. First and foremost, it shows that you care for your employees. 2, it gives you the opportunity to understand if they have any concerns or you need to make any temporary reasonable adjustments for them. Thirdly, and most importantly, it gives you the opportunity to confirm with them that based on the conversation that you've had, they are fit and well to continue their duties. So they can't then come back to you and tell you that they're not. And another, that should always be recorded. You should always record any return to work interview that you have. Okay. As said, it feels that everything over the last 2 years has revolved around COVID. Ask yourself what's happening with regard to other absences. Have they been left on the back burner, or have you turned a blind eye to them? Because that's easy to, we can accept that's really easy to do in this current climate. The benefits of early intervention has always been the key to managing attendance. Well-known fact, the quicker you as an employer intervene, the most likely that employee is going to return and it won't develop into a long-term sickness because they know you're on your game. Early intervention, as stated, results in a reduction in absence, it increases productivity, ensures retention, and does wonders for company morale as well as promoting health and well-being. Mainly because it demonstrates to the employee and other employees that you are being proactive in securing a return to work, which takes the pressure off those remaining that have had to pick up that additional work, which is hugely beneficial for morale. In my experience, failing to deal with any absence breeds further absence. Human nature is to think, if they can get away with it, so can I. And before you know it, it's spiraling out of control. So best practices without all absences. Your employees must call in following your absence reporting procedures. It's not good enough to send a text or via another employee. That's an easy cop-out. That means they don't have to face you. I know that's on the phone generally, but they don't have to speak to you. So that's easy. They have to speak to you. They have to explain why they're off. Conduct a care call later in the day to determine how they're feeling. That way you get to know, oh yes, I'm really sick and I'm at home on the sofa, or I'm out on the town. Try to gauge a return to work date or what they are doing to support a return sooner. Okay, so if they're that poorly, have they spoke to their GP? Have they taken some advice to enable them to return sooner? I know that a lot of businesses don't have occupational health, but it is a fantastic route to go down if you have, and something that we at HR for UK can support you with. It's much quicker than getting a GP report. GP reports are they're not detailed. They don't give you the information that you need. But an occupational health understands the workplace and capabilities, and the employee will not be able to pull the wool over an occupational health advisor's eyes, and they will determine, right, you've got this is when you can be getting back to work, or we can point you in the right direction of offering you some physio, or if it's a mental health issue, right, let's get you tracked to counselling. So they are absolutely key to getting employees back to work. I can totally vouch for that. Okay, so I've got a couple of myths or facts for you. Okay, so you can answer me or put your hand up if you want to answer. If an employee has a fit note, they can't return to work before it expires. Is this a myth or a fact? No? No takers? A myth, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Yes, it is a myth. So if an employee, thank you, they're all coming in with the right answers. Thank you very much. If an employee does have a fit note and they feel that they feel much better before the end of that sick note, with the agreement of the employer, they can return to work. Okay. There's no need for them to go to the doctor and ask for a fit to return. They can just return to work. But what must happen, it must be covered off in their return to work that they've agreed to come back sooner. And if there's any adjustments required for them, that must be detailed as well. Okay, the next question is, if someone is on long-term sick, do I have to wait 28 weeks before I can ask to see them? Is that a myth or a fact? A myth. Thank you very much. Thank you. Brilliant. It is a myth. And that's because, yes, we do have people that we know are going to go off on long-term sick because they're having major surgery, they've got a serious illness, but it doesn't stop us, still showing them, one, that we care about the reasons that they're off, but also it could be that they're not going to have that capability to return. So we can therefore start discussing that with them at an earlier stage. Yes, we will demonstrate that we're obviously going to be supportive of the time that they're off, but we'll also need to keep abreast of what their treatment incurs, how that treatment is going, and potentially are they going to have that capability to return. Okay, and then finally, I can't dismiss someone if they've been off for a long time and it's related to a disability. Is that a fact or a myth? A fact. Yeah, I've had one answer as a fact. Fact. Any others? Myth? Yeah. Okay, I can understand why people have said fact, but it is in fact a myth. Because as long as an employer has demonstrated that they've done everything reasonably possible to make adjustments for that person in terms of their disability, but it may mean that it may still mean that they haven't got the capability to do that job. So what an employment tribunal would look for is, yes, that employer demonstrated that they did everything they possibly can, but it was not, however, operationally feasible for that person to return to that workplace, and therefore it wouldn't be deemed unfair. Okay, but we do tend to shy away from things like that when there's anything relating to a disability. And that's why it's always great to take advice on that, because it can be very costly if it does go wrong. And obviously that is something that we can support you with. Okay, so I've just put together some other useful information, which I'm guessing that you're probably aware of. Up until the 26th of January, and this may extend beyond that date, an employee who is absent and it isn't due to COVID can self-cert for 28 days. That's been done to relieve the pressure on the NHS, and obviously depending on how that is when we get to the 26th of Jan, that may be extended. SSP can be claimed back through the statutory sick pay rebate scheme for up to 2 weeks per employee if they were on your payroll as of the 30th of November 2021. Okay, so that's a big benefit to employees in terms of that cost saving. Some businesses you may have seen in the news, IKEA, Wessex Water and Morrison's, who have predominantly paid company sick pay, so a contractual sick pay, have made the decision to only pay SSP for those that haven't been vaccinated that get COVID. This, I guess you'll understand, does pose a big risk. There is a danger that employees will attend the workplace with COVID. And two, it could be costly if they're taken to an employment tribunal and it's found to be unfair, discriminatory, breach of their human rights. All of those kind of things would come into the mix. Okay, we are starting to see cases relating to COVID that have gone through employment tribunal, and I'm just going to share a couple of those with you. So the first one involves a sales and project marketing coordinator who requested to be furloughed or to be allowed to work from home, given his concerns about commuting and attending the workplace. The employer offered annual leave instead. However, the employment tribunal found that the employee could not work from home and that he could not simply refuse to attend the workplace due to the pandemic. Another one that's gone through tribunal, an IT professional found himself in Italy on annual leave when lockdown was announced and decided to remain there. In finding the employer's decision to dismiss him unfair, the ET took the view that the threat of coronavirus itself was a serious and imminent danger and that the employee was taking appropriate steps to protect himself by working remotely from Italy. So there's kind of been one for and against. And then another one, an employee took employer to ET as he feared getting COVID and did not feel safe in the workplace and did not attend. However, it was deemed that he had not raised any objections to the controls that had been put in place, which were based on government guidelines. Therefore, he had no right not to attend work. So you can see the importance of making sure that those COVID risk assessments are in place, that they're being adhered to, because what we will see, although we're 2 years since COVID started, we will start to see those claims coming through. Okay, so that's what you've still got to be mindful of, that they could still happen going forward. So we just need to stay on top of it. Okay, so my summing up, I think, let's take absence by the horns. Add COVID to your regular list of reasons for absence, as it's clearly not going away. But the important thing, it doesn't stop us managing the situation robustly. We still have a job to do in that respect. Treat COVID like, as I've said, just treat it like any other absence. Don't let employees pull the wool over your eyes. Manage them closely. You know, it's getting better. The tools that we have in place to deal with it are getting better. And I think the 5-day isolation can only be a great improvement. And I'm sure we'll gradually work to actually, you've got COVID, it's just like having a cold. Push those vaccinations. We can't make people have them, but really push it. Okay, so I have got some questions that have come through. Yeah, so I have got some questions that have come through. One has come through from Jesus House. So the question is, the team is currently working from home. It makes it very challenging to know who's off sick. How do we put a strategy in place to ensure that employees reporting sick on the first day as stipulated in the organisation's sick policy? Okay, so my answer to that is people that work from home, employees that work from home should be treated no different to anyone in the workplace. They still follow the same terms and conditions as you would as if you were coming into the workplace. So if you wake up in the morning and think, today I wouldn't be able to attend the workplace because I'm ill, well, you can't work from home because you're ill. You are not well enough. And they would follow the same absence reporting procedure as I've said. They need to ring up, explain why they're absent, and then you would follow up with that care call, see if they're going to be fit for the next day. If not, what are they doing about it, and how you can support them. So there's absolutely no difference, and that just needs to be reiterated to those employees. Maybe you are working from home, but it's exactly it. Home is an extension of the workplace, is what I'm trying to say. So you just treat it as the workplace. Okay. And then another question from the NFSP from Lisa. How do you plan when several areas could potentially be described as single points of failure, i.e. only one employee doing particular roles within a small organisation? So my understanding from that, Lisa, is you're saying that there is only one person that can do that job. I think it goes back to you need to think about who you can get to cover those basics. It's like we say, you can't do that job in the entirety because that would probably take years of skills and knowledge. However, there must be certain key elements in that need to be covered, so certain tasks that need to be done. So therefore, I would advise that somebody gets the basic training on it, follow it up with those guidance notes in terms of those work instructions. So if that person was unexpectedly out of the business, they could pick up what is business critical. Okay, and then I have another question that's come in. I have an employee who's always off work. What can I do? Excuse me, I'm just going to take a drink. Okay, so my answer there would be you need to document the reason for absences, whether it's been for sickness, dependency leave, unpaid leave, COVID, self-isolation, any appointment, so that you've got a good picture of why they're off. Okay, we know in terms of dependency, there's so many days that they can take a year before it becomes personal. Absence, self-isolation, it wouldn't be favourable to include, but it does allow you to see if there's an absence pattern trending. Is somebody taking the last Friday off in the month because it's payday or whatever, or they're taking time off over payday? So it does allow you to look at those patterns. So like we say, all absences must be recorded. Another question I've got is, can I change from paying full company pay to SSP for self-isolation? I would say check your contracts and treat everyone the same. Write to them and explain after one self-isolation period at full pay that they will only receive SSP for subsequent self-isolation periods. Okay, it just depends what you've got within your terms and conditions and your contracts. Another question, do I need to accept staff just sending me a picture of a positive lateral flow test? As we've said, no, that's not good enough. It could belong to anyone. They must register with gov.uk and report the result on NHS app and send you a copy of the mail that identifies that positive result with your employee, which goes back to what I said earlier. Need to challenge them. Have you reported it? What has Track and Trace said to you? So there's clear evidence that they have got COVID. Okay, is there any more questions anyone like to raise? If you want to raise your hand, that would be great. Okay. I'm happy to discuss any concerns that you have got relating to absences and indeed any other HR issues. Okay, we offer a service here at HR for UK where we can hold a full attendance review with you and support with any long-term sick or employers that are potentially blockers to your business, as we would say, preventing you from bringing anyone else in. And a reminder of our phone number, it's HR for UK 01455 444 222. Okay. I was hoping for more questions, if I'm honest, because I wanted you to get what you know, what you need from this webinar rather than me just talking at you. Okay, well, feel free to message in any questions that you have got answer, and I will afterwards, I should say, and I will happily answer them. Okay, thank you. I'm happy to discuss with you either on the phone or by email. Okay, so a little bit of a short and sweet webinar, but hopefully you have got something from it. Okay, thank you for the messages that are coming through. That's great. Thank you for your feedback. Okay, thank you very much for joining us today. I look forward to speaking to you in the future, or if not, again on another webinar. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye.